And failure to reject implies that the data which we have available with us, it do not provide the sufficient evidence to prefer the alternative hypothesis over the null hypothesis. Thus, if we conclude that do not reject H0, it does not necessarily mean that null hypothesis is true, but it only suggests that there is no sufficient evidence against H0 in favor of H0. But rejection of null hypothesis, it suggests that alternative may be true. Vice versa, we can say that if we reject null hypothesis, then we may say that accept the alternative. So thus a decision is always to be given in terms of null hypothesis. Center of our decision is the null hypothesis. Now the hypothesis which we frame, that can be a simple or composite. So when do we say that the hypothesis is a simple one? So if the hypothesis specifies the distribution completely, specifies the underlying probability distribution completely, it is known as a simple hypothesis. And vice versa, if it does not specify the distribution completely, then it is called the composite one. For example, if our random variable under study follows a Poisson distribution with mean theta, then the null hypothesis of the form theta equal to 5. It will completely specify. Under the null hypothesis, the distribution is completely specified because theta is given a particular value. Theta is assigned a particular value, say 5. So with this value, you can completely specify your distribution, probability distribution. So it is called a simple hypothesis. It can be considered as a simple hypothesis. But if we state the hypothesis that theta is less than 5, then less than 5, theta can take any value between 0 to 5. So with this hypothesis, the distribution is not completely specified. So the hypothesis of the form theta less than 5 will be considered as the composite hypothesis. Now what is a statistical test? So after formulating the null and alternative hypothesis, the next problem is, as we were discussing, as we were talking about rejection or acceptance, or rejection or not rejection of null. So basically we want to arrive to the conclusion regarding whether we are going to reject H0 or we are not going to reject H0. So this decision regarding acceptance or rejection of the null hypothesis, that is to be drawn in the light of the sample which we are having available with us. So the statistical test for testing the null hypothesis against the alternative, it can be viewed as a decision rule which would split the sample space, say S, into two exclusive and exhaustive subsets, say C and C dash. That is, now again we can recall what is a sample space. So sample space is the set of all possible values that our observations can take. So for example, if I am interested in the mean, then from the sample I would find the sample mean. Now whatever possible values my sample mean, say x bar, can assume, so that space we can call as a sample space. Now this sample space is to be partitioned. That means a decision rule has to be found which will partition our sample space S into two non-overlapping and exhaustive regions or subsets, say C and C dash. So if our sample observation lies under C, we would reject the null hypothesis, and vice versa, if the sample observation lies under the region C dash, we would not be rejecting or we would be accepting the null hypothesis. So this region will be called the acceptance region. So the subset C and C dash, they are respectively called the rejection or the critical region, and C dash is called the acceptance region. C is the critical or the rejection region, C dash or C complement is the acceptance region. That is, if our sample observation falls under the region C, we would be rejecting H0, so it is a rejection or a critical region. If the sample observation falls under the region C complement, we are going to accept the null hypothesis, so C complement would be called the acceptance region. Now in making the decision, as we are saying that we are going to take a decision based on decision based on a sample regarding acceptance or rejection of the null hypothesis. That means we are going to find out a decision rule. But in drawing the conclusion, because our conclusions are going to be based on only the sample which we are having available and the conclusion we are making for the entire population. So we may commit the error in drawing our conclusion because of if your sample will give you such an evidence which are not actually true for the entire population, you may lead to the wrong conclusion subsequently. So one is likely to commit two kinds of error while taking a decision regarding acceptance or rejection of the null hypothesis. So these two types of errors, they are called type 1 and type 2 error. We say that we are committing type 1 error if we reject the null hypothesis but which is actually true. So rejection of a true null hypothesis, that is called type 1 error, and we are more often interested in the probability of committing this type of error. So probability of type 1 error is denoted by alpha. And type 2 error is said to be committed when we accept the null hypothesis but when in reality it is false. So acceptance of the null hypothesis when actually it is false, it is called type 2 error, and the probability of committing type 2 error is denoted by beta. And 1 minus beta, it is called the power of the test, which we'll discuss more detail later. So this is the error table. These are the two possible decisions we may arrive: acceptance of the null hypothesis or rejection of the null hypothesis. Again, recall, acceptance means no rejection of null. So do not reject null or reject the null. And in reality, again you have two situations. Your H0 may be true, your H0 may be false. That means the alternative may be true. So if you are accepting the null hypothesis when in reality it is true, that means you have come to the right conclusion. Same way, if you conclude that reject the null hypothesis but when in reality it is false, that means the alternative is true. That is, you are rejecting the null hypothesis when the alternative is true means the null is false. That means again you are taking a right conclusion. So it's a right decision. You are not committing any error under these two situations. But suppose you are rejecting the null hypothesis when actually it was true, it's a wrong decision, type 1 error. And if you are accepting the null hypothesis when alternative is true, again it's a wrong decision and what is called type 2 error. So we can next define the size of the test or size of the type 1 error, that is alpha. In mathematical form, we are writing this way. The previous concepts, whatever we have discussed, they are written in the mathematical form. So type 1 error, probability of type 1 error alpha is the probability of rejection of null when it is true. Similarly, probability of type 2 error beta is probability of acceptance of null when it is false. Acceptance of null, when you are going to accept the null, when your sample observation belongs to the acceptance region. So as we have said, acceptance region is C dash. Similarly, here you can see rejection of H0. When you are going to reject H0, if your sample observation falls in the critical region you denote by C. So reject H0, that is as good as saying that your data or the sample point belongs to the region C. H0 is true, that means your true parameter value theta belongs to omega naught. And similarly, acceptance of H0 means your sample observation belongs to acceptance region, which we denote by C dash, and H0 is false, that means true parameter value lies under the parameter space specified under the alternative. So these are the mathematical ways of denoting the type 1 and type 2 errors. Now obviously, what one should desire for? Obviously, we would like to have a test which would minimize both these types of errors, alpha and beta. The ideal situation is the one where we have minimum possible values of both the types of errors, alpha and beta. Now, as we can say in practice, it is not possible that we commit, we can always have an assurance that we are going to have zero error, both alpha and beta zero, that we can never assure. So we have to allow some error. We have to allow some error in a decision. But what we would desire for is we should commit minimum so far as possible error in drawing our conclusion. So what will happen? Is it possible to minimize both the types of error simultaneously? No, right? So in general, it is not possible to minimize both alpha and beta simultaneously, because if you try to minimize alpha, you will find that beta will increase, or vice versa. If you try to minimize beta, you may see that alpha increases. So generally, what the experimenter or the researcher does, they fixes the more serious error to some desired level. So suppose I feel that probability of type 1 error alpha is more serious, I will say that I do not want to commit alpha beyond this particular level, say 5% level. I can allow only 5% error in committing that probability of type 1 error. So I may fix my probability of type 1 error alpha, and subject to the condition that alpha should restrict to 0.05, I would then try to minimize beta, which is now possible. So we can minimize one of the error by controlling the other one, or by fixing the other one to some pre-specified level. For example, if we want to test the hypothesis that H0 is new insecticide is not effective versus the alternative is new insecticide is effective. Okay, so here saying that new insecticide is, committing a type 1 error. What will be type 1 error here? So type 1 error would occur here when we conclude that, when we reject H0, that means we say that new insecticide is effective, when it is actually false, means when it is not actually effective. So concluding that the new insecticide is effective when actually it is not, it is more harmful, it is more serious risk. Okay, so it is more serious error. So in this case, we would like to restrict alpha. So we would fix up some level for alpha, and with this alpha, with this limit on alpha, with the upper bound on alpha, we would try to minimize the probability of type 2 error, that is beta. Now usually this is the practice in statistical inference, that in testing the hypothesis that the more serious error, whatever is the more serious error, we frame H0 accordingly. So we usually frame H0 in such a way that type 1 error is considered to be more serious, and that is why we would generally, this is a general practice, to fix up probability of type 1 error to some level, and this level is called a size of a test, or it is called a level of significance. So we can now summarize that the probability of testing of problem of testing of hypothesis is determining a statistical test, or it is in a way determining a critical region which minimizes probability of type 2 error, subject to the condition that probability of type 1 error is taking a maximum value up to alpha. So this alpha is usually a pre-assigned level by the experimenter. It is up to the liberty of experimenter that how much error, how much maximum type 1 error they want to allow, and that is called the size or size of the test, or it is called a level of a significance of the test. For a simple hypothesis, the size will be the probability of type 1 error itself. But in case of a composite hypothesis, if H0 is composite hypothesis, then that means under H0 you have several possible values of your parameter. For each different parameter value, you can find the probability of type 1 error. Right? See, if the null hypothesis is composite, for example, in case of Poisson distribution, as we discussed earlier, suppose we say theta less than 5. If this is H0, then under H0 you have several possible values of theta, because theta less than 5, that means it can be any value between 0 to 5 for theta. If for each possible theta value you find out probability of type 1 error, Then the maximum among all of them. So maximum probability of type 1 error, taking theta to be different values, which is possible under H naught. So maximum value of probability of type 1 error would be called the size of the test in case the hypothesis, that is H naught, is composite. If H naught is simple, you are only going to have a single value of parameter, and so you have a particular value of a size. So it's going to be a single value. But under composite hypothesis, you can have for different theta values, you can find out probability of type 1 error, and upper bound, maximum, supremum of that will be called the size or the level of significance of the test. Now power of the test. So power of the test is defined as the probability of correct decision, correctly rejecting the null hypothesis. It is defined as 1 minus probability of type 2 error, 1 minus beta. So because beta is probability of acceptance of H naught when it is false, so 1 minus beta will be probability of rejection of H naught when it is false. So probability of rejecting H naught when it is false, correct decision, you are drawing a correct decision. You are rejecting H naught when it is actually false, and that means you are taking a correct decision, and that is called the power, strength of the test. And again, the power beta theta can be obtained for different theta values under the entire parameter space. If you compute the value of power for different possible values of theta, taking theta from the parameter space omega, we can draw the power curve. That is, you can plot on the horizontal axis, you can plot theta, versus on the vertical axis, you can plot the value of beta theta, power, corresponding to the theta value. It will be called a power curve. So the power curve actually shows the behavior of the test, performance of the test. So power curve is very important tool in judging that how your test is behaving, what is the performance of your test. So now we summarize the general steps which are included or which we have to follow in carry out any statistical test of hypothesis. Step number 1, decide on the null hypothesis H naught. Second step is deciding on the alternative hypothesis H1. Now see, our conclusion is going to be based on the alternative hypothesis.